Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone, welcome. This is AI Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today, we will be discussing ways of leading your human centered AI and automation evolution. As organizations accelerate their adoption of AI and automation, it's never been more important to ensure that people remain at the heart of these transformations. According to a Deloitte survey last year, 62% of organizations implementing AI say they are focused on augmenting human performance, not replacing it. That tells us the most successful strategies are human-centered by design. So, today we will discuss three important factors to consider. First, we'll look at keeping your humans at the heart of your AI tools. We'll look at strategies to ensure AI enhances rather than replaces human judgment, creativity, and connection. Second, we'll look at AI tools that deliver improved task completion rates and reduced task time. We'll examine how to identify and implement tools that streamline workflows while boosting accuracy and productivity. And finally, we'll look at ways to enhance process efficiencies with human augmented AI tools. We'll hear how organizations are using AI to elevate human capabilities and unlock smarter, faster decision making at scale. We're going to dive in, but at first, I want to say to thank you to everyone attending today, and that includes the folks joining us today live on LinkedIn. Hello, everyone. And hello to everyone joining us today on Zoom. Thank you so much for joining us today. During our discussion, we would like to hear from you too. So I'd like to encourage everyone to participate today. Join in with your comments in the chat section. If you have a question along the way, just jump on in and I will attempt to get some of your questions and comments into the flow of the show, and we'll have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, well, we have a full panel today, so let's jump in and start with our guests today, starting with Rafael Artachu, Director of Product Management at Unit 4. Rafael, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from today?
Hi, Kevin. I'm calling from Granada, southern Spain.
Granada, very good. All right, Rafael, welcome aboard. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you so much. Also joining us today is Ken Hubble, Technical Evangelist at Melanum. Ken, are you with us?
I am with you,
Hello, Ken. Where are you calling in from today?
calling in from Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. Very good. It's great to have you with us too today, Ken. Also joining us today is Ayman Hussein, Vice President and Head of North American Sales for Cloud Services at NTT Data. Ayman, welcome aboard. Where are you calling in from today?
Hey, Kevin. Great to be here. I live in Houston, Texas, but I'm not calling in from Houston, Texas today. I am calling in from Dhaka, Bangladesh today. I am on the road traveling for business, and I figured I'd still squeeze this in.
All right. Well, it's great to have you back on the show, Ayman. Thank you so much for being with us. And finally, Jamie Grabert, President and co-founder of the Consultancy Group. Jamie, welcome back to the program. Where are you calling in from today?
Today is the San Francisco Bay Area.
Wonderful. All right. We are all over the world today. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. I'd like to start our discussion today by pointing our attention to an article published recently by McKinsey. It's titled Super Agency in the Workplace, Empowering People to Unlock AI's Full Potential at Work. And the article argues that employees are adopting AI far faster than leadership expects. 13% use generative AI for over 30% of their work versus only 4% estimated by executives. Yet only 1% of companies view themselves as AI mature. Look, the authors warn us that to unlock AI's full potential, leaders must invest in strategies and training and foster trust and transparency to empower a bottom-up, human-centered transformation towards super agency. Now, Raphael, what are your thoughts on the article? The article talks about super agency, a new level of human capability that is not just on automating tasks, but actively amplifying human intelligence. What are your thoughts on super agency?
Well, I think it's where we are going, right? So since LLMs appear, we are moving very fast towards this use of agents to augment the capabilities of the user. Still, I think that we will be facing a couple of topics. First one is about trust. You mentioned, and the report mentioned about it. For, let's say, individuals using AI is simpler, but for organizations that is more complex. The other one is about scattered data, right? So doing simple or individual tasks is still manageable, where you need to do tasks that span across different solutions and software. It's more complicated. But I think that the article points it very, very well where we are heading and what are the challenges that we will be facing.
Okay. Now, Ken, I found it interesting that that according to the McKinsey study, 13% of employees use AI for over 30% of their work, versus only 4% estimated by executives. Did this surprise you, Ken?
It didn't surprise me. What did surprise me is that they did not really talk about the fact that a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, they have employees that perhaps they're using it at home, but they haven't quite figured out how to use it for their jobs. And so there's a missed opportunity there. The other thing that these larger corporations are missing the boat on is for those small companies that are incorporating this kind of technology, um, they're leveling the playing field. And the competition now for uh, those companies against each other, the power of a large company starts to diminish when you have a small company that can scale rapidly
Mm.
using AI agents and AI technology.
And Eamon, I also found it interesting that just 1% of companies view themselves as AI mature. Um, I don't know. Is that surprising to you?
Kevin, it is not surprising to me. Having read that article that was shared, a couple of things stood out. One of the things I'd like to call out in this context is there is an amazing amount of employee enthusiasm going on, but there's also a significant amount of leadership lag with it. People are excited, they're learning, they're getting on top of it, they're trying different productivity tools that are coming with AI built in now, including the things they've been using for a while for a lot of these commercial products like Microsoft Office and Google Workspace. They're all now integrated with the AI, agentic AI capability. So there's a lot of employee enthusiasm, but the readiness of the leaders and steering the change fast enough to make it a bottom line differentiator is where uh, the disconnect is. So
Mm.
that's what it surprises me is like, hey, everybody's on it. You hear the right verbiage, the right statistics, the right context, but why is that gap there? We realize the gap there is because the leadership are not able to take what that quantified changes and add it to the revenue bottom line. At the end of the day, all commercial entities are looking for productivity gain or a commercial revenue gain of some sort or cost savings. They have to translate that. And I think that's what the statistics are showing right now.
All right, very good. Now, Jamie, to me, it's all about people and AI working together as partners and
Mhm.
enabling our workers to perform at levels far beyond what they could have done alone. Jamie, is this the new competitive advantage?
I think so. I think Ken, Eamon, and Raphael's have hit it, right on the head is we can use AI in so many different ways. And to Eamon's point, it's, people are using it now in tools, Salesforce, everybody, almost every tool that we use, whether it be even a chatbot now is considered an AI tool, right? So many of the things that we use in our daily life, and it can serve as a force multiplier, which if you're a small company, like Eamon said, it can be a field leveler. So, it's all in how we implement it, but it's in how we communicate it. It's how we manage the implementation, the change, and then how we get buy-in. I'm not at all surprised by the numbers because a lot of people have been using AI. They didn't want employers to maybe know because they were like, oh, well, if they figure out I can do this faster, is that going to make my job obsolete? If I do it, if I'm using this tool and I don't have approval from AI, am I violating my employment contract? So there are a lot of nuances to AI. So I think, maybe even there might even be a little bit of skew in those numbers because were people exactly 100% honest, yes or no? We don't really know with surveys. So I think we also have to take a look at the plus minus on that.
All right. The article is called Super Agency in the Workplace. It's from McKinsey. It's here in the chat feature. Take a look, everyone, and let us know what you think about the article. Does it resonate with you and your place of work? Is it missing something important that we should consider? Let us know anyway. There it is in the chat feature today. All right. Well, folks, let's move on to our discussion points today and the main body of our discussion. And our first discussion point today is keeping your humans at the heart of your AI tools. And keeping people at the center remains critical for success. According to PwC last year, a study done by PwC, 74% of executives say that AI initiatives will only succeed if they are designed to augment, not replace humans. Now, Raphael, tell us a bit more. How does Unit 4 ensure that AI features in your tools continue to empower end users rather than automate them out of the process?
Yeah, so well, everything starts and ends with the user, right? And the person behind it. At Unit 4, we have like three pillars that defines our AI strategy. The first one is human centricity. So what we are doing is starting each project with human research, right? So we understand what are the user problems, and we really define how we want to solve this issue or this problem with technology based on the observations that we have made to the humans. Then we decide whether we want to use AI or not. But at the end, it's about helping the user to complete the task. And as we are discussing, is augmenting the capabilities of the user to be more accurate and more efficient. So we really believe that, as I said, AI should start with the user, but then also the user need to trust the system. So all kind of means to make the AI more understandable, explainable, and mechanisms like opt-in, opt-out will really help to increase the adoption. And this is where we put the focus on human centricity within our AI development.
Now, Ken, as a technical evangelist at LLM, how do you advise organizations about this idea of balancing automation with human empathy and insight? What do you recommend?
So, and I talk about this also in a book I wrote called There Is AI in Team. But the idea is that you don't treat it as just a tool. You actually incorporate it into your workflow processes. That includes the human beings and the AI working together. So imagine, and our platform, the LLM platform, is designed specifically to allow groups to work together with AI being just one of the participants in the virtual room, if you want to call it that. So as you're discussing things, as you're doing business strategy, as you're mapping out the next product app, or whatever the case might be, the AI is also listening, and it is popping up from time to time saying, "Hey, I've got an idea," or "Have you considered this?" or "I can create a mock-up of that for you," or even just vibe code the whole thing to give you a prototype. And we're talking about doing it in seconds. So now your team can be much more productive instead of having to wait for it to be sent off to the coding team or to the art department or to the marketing team, whatever. There, you bring those people together, and now you have an agent that can, or set of agents that can actually build this thing out or flesh it out. So you're visually able to see what it is that you're trying to accomplish. That speed and that ability to have that kind of efficiency within an organization is what I was talking about before with leveling the playing field. And so organizations that figure out how to incorporate that, how to get their humans to consider the AI as a part of the team, will be much more successful as we move forward.
AI as part of the team. I think that's an important concept. Now, Amen, you are an expert at cloud transformations with NTT Data, previously with Google. What strategies have you seen work well in enterprise transformations that protect human roles while introducing advanced AI tools?
It's a great question. I appreciate you bringing that forward. So in my role at NTT Data currently, what I have to do is provide service to multitude of customers, which are very intensive of human attributes and requirements. However, I cannot hire as many as I need, nor can I translate that cost savings if I'm hiring too much. So in my life, to provide the service that I do, I have to use AI to augment my actual human people to provide service at an exponential rate with efficiency and excellence that is measurable and accountable. So we're using agentic AI to multiply our workforce. So we're not getting rid of them. We're just enabling them to do more. For example, our business has a network operations center a service. That means we're monitoring network devices around the world for many different companies. Every time we onboard a company and they may have, 20,000 devices that may need to be monitored, in the past, I would have to go get staff to get staffed into the NOC to go do that. But now with agentic AI, I can actually automate a lot of those monitoring features and allow that same body those triggers that would allow them to multiply their ability to monitor more devices without compromising life balance and quality. So I need it for that purpose. The humans not getting replaced. What we're doing is growing the business faster, quicker, and onboarding faster. On our customer side, the same applies, except on the customer side, they're using it for those things that have been traditionally challenging. So if you're in retail and it's Christmas time and you're going to open up a call center to take complaints or whatever it may be, that is transitional, transactional, it is seasonal. It is a cost burden for our customers. But imagine if they use agentic AI to have a near human-like experience for reservations of hotels or airlines or changes that is natural language driven. So you don't feel like you have to use those monotone, operator, no, stop, yes kind of answers. You do just talk and it takes care of it. That is where our customers want. So now they have a cost uptick to get agentic AI, but the return on reward is significant. So I see it as not replacing, I see it as augmenting humans. So almost becoming superhuman in the ability to scale and function.
Indeed, almost superhuman. You're right. Yeah. Now, Jamie, when advising your clients with the
Mhm.
consultancy group, how do you help leaders define a people first approach when evaluating tools and deploying AI?
I think the first thing that you do is you ask your people, what tools are you currently using that have AI, right? Because you want to know if there's something they're already accustomed to or they already see how it works. Your best resource is always going to be in-house. Those are the people with the tribal knowledge. Most of the people on this call, if not all, have people who are on their team who, I hate this word, but report to them or, they're managing those people. And so they have to, they can't do all of the tasks. You have to know immediately who's handling what piece, what do they know, what has their experience been? Because there are some great tools out there, but there are also some agentic AI tools that leave a lot to be desired, or they have a lot of hallucinations, or and some of this is in setup, but some of it is also, in how these tools operate. So your tribal knowledge is where you start. And then you have to ask the people, what are you comfortable with? Formulate a group, ask the questions, and then move from there, create strategies of how to implement. But it all starts with getting those people who are going to be using the tools and getting their buy-in, their feedback, and how you're communicating this. And I think there's also the psychological levels. We think about it in terms of in leadership and management classes that I've taken, where it's think in terms of Maslow's hierarchy, right? So as long as they know that their job is safe, they're going to be more likely to buy in. If you can create those first couple of levels, okay, I'm safe, I'm seen, my experience is rewarded or understood, you'll get a lot faster buy-in for that. And that can help with the implementation, but it also helps with the quality of data that you get in there because people will do a better job for you in how they're training them, how they're giving them feedback. Because at the end of the day, we are humans. We are the ones making the decisions, generally speaking. And we have to remember that is all of this is about how can we as humans become better at what we do? How can we use AI to be a better society? What can it, if it's predicting weather, if it is it predicting, in my case, earthquakes maybe, or different things like that is how can we better utilize these tools to make life and the world a better place.
We are here today with Rafael Artacho from Unit 4, Ken Hubble from MLLM, Ayman Hussein from NTT Data, and Jamie Grabert from the consultancy group. We're talking about leading your human-centered AI and automation evolution. If you have a question or a comment for our panel, please just pop them into the chat feature. We'd like to hear from you too, and we will attempt to get some of your questions and comments into the flow of our discussion today. All right, folks, we've been talking about keeping our humans at the heart of our AI tools, but let's move on to the tools themselves, prioritizing tools that deliver improved processes, task completion rates, reduced task time, that kind of thing. AI certainly promises an acceleration of performance. In a 2024, again, McKinsey report found that generative AI has the potential to reduce time spent on routine tasks by as much as 40% across key business functions. That's an impressive finding. Raphael, what metrics or benchmarks do you folks use to determine whether an AI feature is improving efficiency or whether it's creating fatigue or resistance?
So we prioritize our case based on value, friction, and repetition. So that is translated into, let's say, an ERP field is reduce the time on tasks, reduce the number of errors, speed on error resolution, and even workflow efficiencies. So actually, for each of the developments that we are doing at Unit 4, we need to have a clear ROI because otherwise we won't be able to sell it to customers. We were talking about adoption, and we are not even able to sell it internally because the cost of using AI is usually higher than traditional methods. So defining a clear KPI since the beginning that is linked to the user benefit is always our starting point, and it is what we are continuously developing until we ship this AI solution to the customer.
Now, Ken, from a technical standpoint, how can organizations validate that an AI system is truly making a difference and not just shifting the burden somewhere else down the line or in a different process?
Well, I'll answer in reverse. We are shifting the job or the task down the line. It just so happens to be being shifted to AI versus a group of human beings. It's still vital to have humans in the loop, however, because you do inevitably have to validate it, and we haven't quite hit the level of perfection where that's not an issue, either in human beings or in AI. And there's this presumption that AI just, if it's not perfect, then it's not useful. The
Interesting
reality is that
perspective.
if you treat it like you would treat a human being, it's just, yeah, it's just faster. And that ability to make up for things from an efficiency standpoint and effectiveness standpoint, make the whole team aspect of it. And I keep going back to the team because when you're working with these tools, if you treat them as I'm trying to have it do everything at once, then you're going to have very minimal success. If you treat it as a group of tools, a group of agents per se, then you're able to subdivide and conquer. You're able to have specific agents do specific things very well. They're optimized around that. And if you have a continuous workflow and conversational dialogue with these agents and with these with the generative AI uh, tools like MLLM or any of the others that are that conversational aspect of it is really what brings you true value because out of that emerges things that you wouldn't get by just saying hit this nail with this hammer. You may say, well, why are we building this wall? And that's where the real power of using these tools comes in. is the emergence of of these ideas and of these things. If you're looking just to fill templates out, it does a great job at that too, and does faster job than the human being. But it's really looking at where can we get maximum value out of this that we can't just get out of a human being. And that's why I think we have opportunity.
All right. Now, Eamon, I believe in the old adage, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So how are your clients approaching ROI measurement when selecting and optimizing their AI solutions?
Yeah, so you did chop up a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question you asked. So I'm going to use an example of toll roads.
Okay.
Remember the days when we had a toll booth person actually in the toll booth waiting for you to come through so you would pay your toll and then you would get past. Now they have cameras that are high frequency cameras. They have toll sensors and readers so you can just pass through. The toll authorities, and I live in the state of Texas, which is got several toll authorities and major road tollways are in place. Their ROI KPI capabilities to find how many vehicles they could push through on that road in a duration of time, both for traffic management, but also for revenue generation. That's an easy KPI for the toll authority to just sit there and say, that's what we need to do. That's the volume we need. Let's go make the investment in AI capable solutions. And this is early AI. They're just using video recognition, image recognition to get the license plates captured or the toll tags captured at a very high frequency. Keep in mind, these cars are going 60, 70, 80 miles sometimes, right? So think of that. They had a very distinct ability to say, this is what we need to define success and use the KPI and capability. Kind of like how Raphael was saying, in sales, you can do the same thing. Deal closure, fast getting scope of works out in case of Jamie. If you can use these KPIs of how quickly you're doing those business actions, you can easily computate what your investment return is going to be. But that is exactly that. So in manufacturing, failure rate is a big conversation item. Like if you have bags of chips that are falling off the conveyor belt, let's figure that out. That's a failure rate and things of that nature. You have to have a business analyst really create the computational value that says, this is what I'm going to use for measurement. And therefore, any tool that I buy that goes underneath that bottom line now can capture an ROI over a period of time.
Now, Jamie, what frameworks do you recommend to your clients to evaluate which tools have and will have meaningful impact on their performance and productivity? Jamie, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
It's for a lot of our clients, ROI is a factor, but more importantly, it is efficiency. Is because they do have smaller staffs or they don't have, we work with a lot of really small niche type of companies. And so a lot of it is these repetitive tasks that I need to offload. Is it something that I hire a VA or is it something like that? So I think it depends also on the customers that you have or the clients or the company that you're working with in general. For some companies that are a little larger, how quickly is it that you are seeing, are your people able to accomplish more tasks? So in a sales setting, are the chatbots or the AI tools that you're using able to help you get to more clients per day or more customers per day because that's going to increase revenues. So they're not even, a lot of them are just starting to utilize AI. So a lot of them are not even at the point where they're comfortable trying to measure it yet because as Eamon said, their failure rate is still very high. They're still getting a lot of hallucinations because they haven't been trained right or they haven't been trained with enough data to really give a lot of good answers or to be able to help customers efficiently in some cases. So there's still a lot of that uptake. They're still on that ground floor. The ones who are a little more mature with the tools, they are starting to see a bottom line because they see more sales per salesperson, more customers contacted per day, or more orders filtering through. So right now, that's kind of the measurement. But as we move more into the maturity phase, or they start to mature, I know that those ROI conversations are going to happen. And it is like Eamon said, what is your computational values? What are your KPIs? What are you measuring against? What's the end game? And then failure rate with AI right now has to be a factor, because in some cases you're utilizing only small language models. In some cases you're utilizing the large language models. Smaller ones are easier to contain. Those are the ones that are more internal data. And then when you start working with the larger language models, then you start to see, at least in what we've experienced, we see more hallucinations with the large language models than we do the small. So we're looking at, all of those different types of pieces to measure success and failure, or where do we evaluate a tool? When is it time to look at something else, or, what adjustments need to be made to the tools that have been implemented?
All right, what a wonderful conversation so far. I am Kevin Crane, and we are here with AI Talk. We're here with Jamie Grabert, Ayman Hussein, Ken Hubble, and Rafael Artacho. We're talking about AI and human-centered AI tools and strategies that focus on both the technology and the people behind the process. And folks, we have a question or a comment coming in from our audience today. I'd like to open it up to the entire panel. So jump on in if you have a response here to Dennis. Dennis, thank you so much for your question today. Dennis asks, can someone share an example where human-centered design directly influenced the success of AI implementation, particularly in balancing efficiency with employee empowerment? Does anyone have a
Um,
response for Dennis?
let me go first here, if you don't mind, Kevin. I
Please
do
go
have an
right ahead.
example. So, in the context of modernization, I did have a customer, and this is ubiquitous to retail and wholesaling. There is a concept, at least in the United States, where you have a picker in a warehouse that picks goods off a shelf to put in a cart or a box, kind of like the Amazon, if you buy things in bulk that need to be shipped. And this was a grocery chain warehouse, and they had to pick, supplies that go to different grocery stores: beans, flour, sugar, in large pallet count. These individuals that work in the warehouse, if they're not robots, which is also becoming ubiquitous in these warehouses, that drive forklifts, and they have safety gear on, they have helmets and hand gloves that are very sticky. They cannot use uh, iPad-like devices with buttons and touchscreen. They have to speak. So they have voice recognition software, and that's been around for a while. But human-centric design of AI in this case was the ability for them to naturally speak and request, hey, where's my next bin that I have to go to? What do I have to pick next? Which dock crate do I drop these off for the truck to pick it up? And they're using natural language. And that human-centric design was based on the fact that these dock workers that are driving forklifts inside a warehouse, cold storage, whatever it may be, do not have the ability to use devices and touchpads and iPads and, press a button here and that. They have to be centric to their balance of the ability. Then that empowerment of canceling orders or changing orders or saying, I'm going to go left instead of right, which is an efficiency metric that some of these warehouses built in. You can actually empower them to make decisions very actively for the success of safety as well as getting things out the door. So that was a project I worked on not too long ago, and that was quite enlightening to see. If we just use human-centric design, you actually get better results out of it.
All right, very good. Thank you, Eamon, for that. And thank you, Dennis, for your question and comment today. We appreciate your participation. If anyone else has a question or a comment, please jump on into the chat feature. We will attempt to get some of your comments and questions into the flow of our discussion today. All right, folks, we've talked about people and we've talked about tools. Let's talk a little bit about process now, delivering enhanced process efficiencies. Now, when AI is integrated to support, not supplant humans, organizations gain measurable process improvements. According to IBM's 2024 Global AI Adoption Survey, 59% of companies say that AI is already improving their process efficiency. Raphael, how do you folks support a collaborative workflow between AI and humans rather than a siloed or automated only model?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, we are trying to understand how users works, right? And what usually happens is that the user has a set of jobs to be done, and they go through different tasks. So what we are trying to do is following, let's say, an automation increase approach. So for each of those individual tasks that the user needs to do, we try to identify whether those can be automated. So maybe removing the user from that task, or augmented. That is always the preferred way. So what we also see is that not always all tasks can be automated or augmented. And what we also see is that there is a transition from augmentation to automation. So when the user is used to the system, they feel comfortable, they trust the system, they prefer to automate. So I was also mentioned about the possibility to opt in, opt out, and explainability. So when they really grasp what the agent is doing, they accept the automation, and then they move forward to the next task. So this observation of how users work, together with the possibilities that we give to the users, I think is the right combination of bringing the human in the loop and let them focus on where they can bring the value.
Now, Ken, give us an example of this, how this might play out in the real world. Can you give us a case study or a use case that best illustrates this human augmented AI in action?
Yeah, so going back to the use of templates, one of the interesting recent experiences I had was we were building out a business case generation tool, and there was a standard format, standard business template that this organization used. Um, they didn't, and this goes back to the human factor part as well. What they didn't want to do was just blindfoldly just submit a bunch of data and have it generate the business case. What they wanted to do, given some of the requirements from the stakeholders, uh, they wanted the business case person, the business analyst, to be able to go through in a step-by-step fashion, similar to what they already did. They wanted to maintain that workflow in the app that they were building, or that we were building for them. And so that app enabled them to go through step by step in their normal workflow with the appropriate checks and balances along the way, because they still had to have sign-offs at various points. So built into this whole tool was the automatic generation of content, then a peer review, then follow-up revision, and some of the revision was done with the AI, some of it was manual, depending upon the types of content that was involved. Uh, but by understanding their workflow, the human workflow as it was, and looking not to replace the whole thing, but to look where we could reduce or eliminate waste from a time value standpoint. Um, we were able to achieve them a 50% reduction. Actually, it was 52% reduction in the time of the process of developing these business cases over what they had been doing in the past. They would like to think eventually they can get it down even more so. The biggest delay at the end was the cycle time with which to get the approvals from the peer reviews as they were going through the sequence, and not the actual process itself. So by being able to work with them and have them work for it within their flow and in their normal way of doing things, and that involved a lot of focus testing, with the users, they were able to achieve something that they didn't realize they were going to be able to achieve. And the business analyst wasn't out of a job. They had a backlog of several thousand of these things that needed to get done. So it just made it to where they could actually perform at a level that they needed to for the success of the business.
Now, Eamon, I'm interested in the effect to decision making within organizations. Can you share an example or a use case where AI has been used to extend and not replace the human decision making part of the process, and what were the results?
I'll use conversations from both my previous employer and current employer. One of the biggest challenges when you have a matrixed organization is double checking, especially when you're doing contracts and providing service values, if the math adds up. And so one of the best things in the use of such, AI does a phenomenal job to double check, triple check your work when you have a matrix organization that may be prone to using older versions of something, newer versions of a document, and using that in front of a customer eventually. So one of the best use cases I have is the ability for us to use AI to reflect back on things that would take too many cycles for a human person to refer. For example, when I'm sitting in what we call our business accountability meetings, have we done this before? Where have we ever done before? What were the challenges there? These are questions that engagement manager or somebody would have to collect, come to this meeting and provide. But now with AI, even if you didn't have that, you can use this interface of natural language built on with AI that has been trained using our own data set to actually get the data right there when you need it. So you're not stumbling over it with leadership that have very little time to spend with you. That has that, and the way I would have gotten around it in the old days would I would have hired 3 or 4 minions to go collect all the data to show up and give me the brief so that if I went to a meeting, I would have all the data I would need and not get stumbled on, right? Now I don't need that. So we're not replacing humans. We're making myself more productive, valuable, and make the decision quicker. So decision making turnaround using agentic AI or AI-based tools have phenomenally made those things that we come back later and say, whose idea was it and why did we do this, become less of an occurrence.
Now, Jamie, I'm interested in your take on change management and the idea that, frankly, folks are concerned that AI might eliminate their jobs. So, how do you guide clients through change management when introducing AI tools that shift but don't eliminate humans?
It starts with the communication. You have to communicate what the goals are of this, why you're implementing this, and really just you have to make sure that again those basic needs are met. Hey, we're not bringing these tools in because you're not doing a good job. We're not bringing these tools in to replace you. We're trying to help. And here's what we want you to take away from this. Here's how we need your help. Here's how we want to train you. And back to what Ken said earlier, you have to train your people on how to use these tools. The other piece of it is you have to have a plan, a strategy in place, and you have to make sure that you're measuring as you go. This isn't something where we're going to just set it and forget it for a few months, but it's something that re does require constant attention in the very beginning, and that takes people. No one knows your company better than you, better than the people who've worked there for a long time, that understand the processes, that understand how things operate. They even understand your customers. So all of those things require points of communication, points of constant monitoring, constant measurement, constant updating or optimization. And so when you do those things and you create a chain or you create a plan to move forward, and that is communicated down and you say, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to know. People feel a lot better when they know what's going on. They know what to expect. And you're more likely to get buy-in, you're going to get better results across the board, and you're going to have better job performance and satisfaction, which means people will stay. People are excited. One thing that we see is people are excited when companies get AI tools until they start to see, oh, well, it can do this. Wait, I do that. Am I going to lose my
Right.
job? And so the job of that manager is, no, your job is going to evolve. We're going to train you to do new things, or we're going to still need you to help, to teach the tool, to teach AI how to do things. And those are, I think, at the end of the day, we talk about efficiency, we talk about ROI, we talk about things, but can you measure ROI of people? If you hire someone in, not every employee is a salesperson that's going to bring money in. You have your developers who are creating, so you have R&D costs. You talk about all of those things. So I think if we look at AI as an employee, not as just a tool, and kind of look at it that way, is in the beginning it's not going to have ROI, but we need to communicate the same thing when you bring in new people and you're saying, okay, we're expanding your team, or we're adding a teammate and we need you to hand this off. How many times has that happened where you have a team of people and you bring in more people and you're like, okay, I need you to hand this off because I want you to focus more on this. You have to communicate that to people. Well, why am I handing off part of my job? And that's because we want you to focus more on this, or this is a greater opportunity. So you have to look at all of those things and communicate it right off the
All right.
bat
Very
and
good,
having
Jamie. I
that
think you may have
plan.
frozen. Are you still with me, folks? All right. They're very good. All right. Well, what a fantastic discussion today. In our time remaining, let's get to one more comment from our audience today. Um, and I'll open it up again to the entire panel. So please jump in if you have something to respond to. This comment, explainability is a core pillar, but often hard to achieve with complex models. How are you addressing this in real world deployments? Anyone have a comment?
Yeah, maybe I can take this one. Um,
Please.
So at the end, well, it can happen two different things, right? So it's not usually that you throw like a question on the prompt and then you get the response. At least within the enterprise solutions, when you are using AI, is a set of tasks and actions that you need to take in order to complete that task. So having the right monitoring, the right telemetry and tracing, you are able to explain what are the decisions that the system made in order to achieve that task. And I think this is something that used to be overlooked, so no one really care about it. But now, especially with the introduction of LLMs, where there is where there is uncertainty, um, it's really important to bring this information back to the user so they can decide whether they accept that solution or let's say they change that. This is at least what we are doing in our case.
All right, very good. Raphael, Ken, Eamon, Jamie, it's been great speaking with you today. We're almost out of time, but before I let you go, we have reached the action item round of the program. I'm wondering if each of you could please provide us with a quick action item that we can use to take advantage of your ideas and advice today. Jamie, I'd like to start with you. Do you have an action item for us today?
Yeah, for me, it is create a team of people that you want to see collaborate and really grow your AI use and really train the tool, but make sure that it's various roles, ages, departments, and then let them help you guide the process of further implementation or growing your efforts.
That is Jamie Graybert, president and co-founder of the consultancy group. Jamie, it's been great having you back on the program. Thank you so much for being with us today. Eamon, how
Thank you,
about
Kevin.
you? Do you have an action item for us today, Eamon?
I do. I'm going to use the same action items I've always dropped on your show here. Learn, learn, learn. Get with it. There's an extreme amount of free content out there, learning certificates from all the vendors that are in AI today. Get yourself educated. Your empowerment is powerful enough for you to get to the next level. Now, within the organization, I would recommend having birds of a feather type groupings. You will share your knowledge within those groups of people that like it, and by virtue of that, it will proliferate and get integrated into actual activities in an enterprise or corporate setting. So learn it, be a part of it, educate yourself. You have to have the mindset of completely always changing because it is also changing on the AI side. Products that we know now will not be around next year. They'll either they'll get merged into other people, or they just go out of business. So learn always. AI is going to be a powerful thing. And we're not talking about coding and building language models. We're talking about how to use these to be productive, like photo editing and whatnot, everything from marketing and creating content. So please be a part of the learning circle.
That is Eamon Hussein, Vice President and Head of North American Sales for Cloud Services at NTT Data. Eamon, thank you so much for being with us on the show. All right, Ken. Now, Ken, how about you? Do you have an action item for us today?
Yeah, if I had anything, it would be experiment. Expect that it's not going to work exactly the way you want it to begin with, partly because you're new to it, and partly because it's new to you. And then experiment again and have conversations with this. And if you get stuck, ask it to tell you how to best communicate it with you. The amazing thing is that they've gotten smart enough that they can actually help you help yourself. And so it's an exciting time. And treat it like it's a team player for your organization. As leaders, we have to embrace the fact that we have a new type of team member. And uh, don't get in your own way, and don't get in the way of the success of your company. That's the key.
That is Ken Hubble, technical evangelist at MLLM. Ken, thank you so much for being with us today. All right, Raphael, do you have an action item for us today?
Yes, of course. It's a mix of what have been said already, right? So learn, of course, is one of the keys. Experiment. So maybe I cannot focus on value. So really focus where the value is. Maybe start small, prove the value of your experiment, and then scale when you really get to the point.
That is Rafael Artacho, Director of Product Management at Unit 4. Rafael, Ken, Eamon, Jamie, thank you so much for being with us today. What a great panel discussion. Your perspectives and advice are spot on. Thank you so much. I hope that we get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. We really appreciate you being with us. Join us next time on July 1st when we'll have another great panel of guests discussing the topic of how industrial AI is reshaping electronics design beyond language models. Well, that should be another great discussion. In the meantime, if you'd like to find me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. Check me out. I'm Kevin Crane. And you can check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of AI Talk. And until next time, I am Kevin Crane saying thank you so much for watching.